Welcome to the Not in the Job Description podcast. I'm Scott McLaughlin.
And I'm Chris Kiernan.
Look at all the people around you. They may seem very different, but they all have something very much in common. Work. Most people have had a history of roles that's taken them to their current job.
Everybody has a story about their job and how they got there. We'll explore funny, gross, embarrassing, scary, and sometimes almost unbelievable stories that people have experienced at their jobs. So enjoy the conversations as people share things about their jobs that were not in the job description.
On today's show, we talked to Julie Lawton, who is the CEO of Julie Lawton Design Build. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So, design build and architecture and home building, things like that. Tell us about what you do.
Well, I'm kind of a unicorn because I'm actually the architect for my clients. I'm the interior designer for my clients, and that doesn't mean decorating, by the way. That means design of all the materials screwed and glued to the walls. And then I also do the interior design, which people traditionally know as the furniture, rugs, artwork, drapery, etc. And then I also manage 5 engineers, which are the 5 men who help build the project with me, which is the structural engineer, the civil engineer, the soils engineer, the mechanical engineer, and the Title 24. So there's 5 engineers plans that get attached to my architectural plans and my design plans that I actually then submit to the city. And then that after they're done being approved by the city, then Julie turns into the contractor and pulls the permit and actually builds the home. So I did a job of 7 people on behalf of the client's best interest. And so that's what design build is design your home and then build it. But it's a 7-step process.
Yeah, it sounds like you take off one hat and put on another immediately afterwards.
Yes, I do. I am 2 Julies, and the biggest part of my job is project management of the architectural and design firm and the engineers, and then the project management of the construction. But I am the designer architect, and I am the GC. There's nobody under me doing the work like most guys have, a couple guys, if not 5, project managing under them so they can play golf every day, but I don't do that.
So of all the different hats you wear, which one would you say is your favorite? I mean, what part it really gets you going?
So I'm a designer. I am a passionate designer, no different than Frank Lloyd Wright or Leonardo da Vinci. I am a designer. I was born with design. So I was gifted, right? I when I was young, I could draw anything. I could paint oil paintings. I was a drummer. I played the piano. I'm a total artist, okay? And then the construction part, managing men, that's easy also for me. I don't know. I thought it was easy, but I guess I have both sides of the brain. I got the artistic side and the analytical side because I enjoyed the engineering. But managing people, I enjoy it, but my passion is the design, and that's what makes everything come out looking great, is my anal retentive Julie and the artist Julie working together.
Oh, yeah. And, my wife and my son actually are more of the artists. They're artistic. I'm more autistic because there's just no way I could do that stuff. Now, when it comes to design, this is the funny part in our house. I've got 2 artists. We're very much minimalists in our house. We don't have a lot of stuff. And
I love that.
Well, I don't know if it's because my wife will tell you that I don't really help out. And trust me, she doesn't want me to help out in interior design. I can walk in a room and go, this is freaking awesome. I love the feel of it. I like the way the feng shui works.
Yes.
Or I can walk into a place and just go, whatever. But if you ask me to take a blank slate and to make an environment, forget it. It's never going to happen. It's just not my thing.
Well, that's just it. I have other family members. My mom's more analytical and money and numbers, and my dad was the artist. That's where I get it. But you can tell. But if you can tell how it makes you feel, that's the good thing, because you don't have to know how to create it. But with my clients that are like you, I just show them pictures and I show them samples, and they touch and feel, and then they give me reactions, and that's how I figure it out.
That's perfect.
And then I do the work, but that's it. That's what it is. If you can say yes or no, or oh, I feel good, or I feel bad, that's all I need, and that's how we get it done as professionals.
So I didn't mention that you are in California. Is that where you do all of your work or the majority of your work?
Yes, I can travel as a designer, but I'm licensed as a contractor in the state of California. So I stay right in my home little town, my new hometown of Laguna Beach. and I kind of stay in Laguna Beach where all the homes have an ocean view, and then Newport Beach where I like the peninsula, but all the homes I work on are relatively close to the water. I don't really work inland or the Midwest, but I have done condos in New York City, and I've done art design projects other places, of course, but my work is right within I'd like to say a 30-mile radius.
Yeah, it sounds like you're working for a lot of really poor people.
Yeah, the problem is, what's funny about, here's the deal. I don't have a lot of, I have a few really ridiculously,
sure,
wealthy clients, but the majority of my clients are just regular people that happen to be lucky enough to buy property in an ocean view community, and now the homes are worth a grip, and then they can afford to remodel them because the value of the home is good. So it's a neat thing where their investment is paying off and growing, because there's no recession with the ocean view.
Right. Yeah. And, the thing about it, too, is let's just say you bought one of these homes for $500,000 20 years ago, and it's worth $5 million now. You almost have to do something to keep that up, too. I mean, you can't just let it go to disrepair.
Just the property maintenance when you live near the ocean along the coast. Just that number alone to keep your home maintained is a big number, not huge, but it's a number. And then you kind of, if you're going to live in it, you want to update it to today's lifestyle. Or people, I have someone I'm working with now who's renting their little tiny house for $28,000 a month, and of course they need to update it because if you're going to pay that much money, it needs to look cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I listen to. Do you know who Adam Carolla is?
Oh, of course, I love him.
Yeah, I think he's hilarious. But he's got like his PhD in bitching about California, specifically when it comes to the bureaucracy of like building and stuff like that. I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah.
To you, is it like, oh, this is just what I've lived in, how I grew up, or do you think it's like when I mean, you have to have 5 engineers for all kinds of things, and I'll guarantee you, if you had the same job in Ohio, you might need 2 of them. But I mean,
that's just it. You can get a lot. You can get away with a lot more stuff in the Midwest and places that don't have earthquakes. Okay,
that's
and then
true.
you get a lot. That's what it is. And then you get away with a lot more stuff in a place that if you work and if your home's 300 feet from the ocean front, you got to deal with the Coastal Commission, and oh my God, nightmare bureaucracy. And not that we don't like those guys, but they're slow. But they're super protective and wonderful on the other aspects. So they're good, and they're there for a reason. But when you go through them, it's so big because the one Coastal Commission handles all of Southern California. One office handles all of Northern California. So when that little house in Laguna Beach needs to have Coastal Commission, you're dealing with the entire, take that huge state, cut it in half, and that whole south coastline. That's a lot of waiting time for a lot of projects. So they're a great government agency, but it's slow if you've got to deal with them.
Sure.
So there's the cities have made over-the-counter, almost in-house processes. As of 4 years ago, they made it quicker for us. But if you're really building ground up, you're stuck with them. But other than that, it's earthquake is what affects it, and the structural engineering is massive. It's hugely. I mean, the amount of lumber we got to put in old homes is insane.
And so you've been in this world for a while now, and with new technologies, when you're talking about earthquakes, I'm sure that maybe the building materials now, they got to be like worlds better than they were, say, 15 or 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. And then the whole thing with the Northridge earthquake and the big ones that happened, I guess it was almost 20 years ago, but like OSB plywood is outlawed. I mean, people still use it, but good engineers will tell you do not use it. It's like liquefaction. So there's things that have changed. And then, of course, they have strong walls, which are steel walls that you can use instead of wood walls. And they have, the paralams, the glue lams, and all the different lumber that's glued together that's 20,000 times stronger than just solid wood, because solid wood can crack.
Right.
So the lumber manufacturers, have come up with things that make it just simplifies it. And then, of course, there's steel also that we use a lot. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned like all these places. I agree. When you have these government groups and the coastal commissions, I'm on board with you don't want to screw up your own environment by all means. But number one, they usually don't operate for free. Number two, they do seem to take their time, and I mean, it just seems like some of the things go like they started down a path like, we want to be tree friendly, and then one of the things I've heard is if you want to do any kind of construction, if you've got trees within X number of feet, sometimes depending on the type of tree it is, you might have to wrap that tree and to protect it, or like.
Oh yeah, that stuff goes crazy. And then you get into the people. Okay, here's another one you'll just love. If you have a development and there's a bird or a bird species living there, you got to protect the bird because he made it his home there first.
Oh wow.
So I'm telling you, and the environmental groups get involved, and the water
Yeah.
groups get involved, and the toxic waste you're going to create because you diverted something natural. It gets over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when it comes to the environmental groups. But it's all been good for good reason. But it can drive you crazy because it takes a long time.
Pro tip: find a Native American and just say that he was there before that bird.
Yeah.
So,
Funny.
since you do a lot of kind of architecture work of designing things, and I'm always amazed at this because I'm a big fan of this Facebook group called of course I said it and I forget it, Construction Hall of Shame. And they constantly show pictures of things in houses where you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Who in the world did this? Either shoddy construction or just things where it's like, why would someone do that? Do you ever get asked by customers to do things where you're thinking, oh, okay, so you don't ever want to resell this house because nobody's going to want this?
Oh yeah, you kidding? I'm kind of bold. My personality. I don't know if it's just it's also in my DNA. I don't know. It's a little bit of the Irish in me, but I'm like, we're not fucking doing that. And so I just, there's things I won't do, and I'm very upfront. Like, no, that would be horrible. So I get it out of the way immediately. Like, I go so far as almost saying, "Are you crazy?" No. And if they keep pushing it, then I go through this litany of reasons why, which includes, everything from Jesus, criminy, it's not going to look good, or no, my God, you're never going to sell this house again. But I do get people what they want, but there's some crazy ideas. And at the beginning of my career, I took over so many jobs from other contractors where they did build things stupid that we had to rip out, and the house could have fallen off the hill, all kinds of dangerous situations. So people get talked into a lot of stuff, and what's bad is that the contractor's not a designer, so he might just build what you want, and you're going to regret it. They're going to regret it if you don't bring in a designer or an architect or a structural engineer. You're going to regret it. So there's a process which I describe in my 7 steps, and there's people you need to protect you from yourself.
Right. Are there any examples of things like that you could share where maybe they've asked you to do something and you're just like, there's no way we're doing that?
One I guess the biggest one was the subterranean pickleball court with a 42-foot stainless swimming pool, and he wanted me to get the clearance of the 15-foot pickleball court going down. So we eventually settled on an 11-foot ceiling, and I said, your balls are going to hit the ceiling, whatever, but I cannot go any lower because the ocean tide is at 7 feet underwater, and then this particular part of the ocean front property had the Santa Ana River flowing under it at 10 and 12 feet under. So I had 2 layers of water, the tide coming up between 7 and 5 feet every day, and the Santa Ana River at 12 feet. So I go, if I go any deeper, I'm going to collapse both houses on either side of your property because it's going to turn to oatmeal and liquefaction on your lot. So we're not doing this. So you're going to have to settle for 11-foot ceiling because there's a danger zone here. Even because I had guys working with me that were doing 36-inch wide caissons, 30 feet deep, and those caissons were on 238 of them covering the 30 by 90-foot lot. So there was 238 caissons, and we settled on 20 feet deep because I refused to go any deeper, but those were chemically grotted caissons. So I basically poured a 20-foot deep by 30 feet wide by 90 feet long block of styrofoam that I could dig out of and work safely. But there were limits to what we could do. And these guys were bridge builders in the ocean. Like they were used to tech trick, but we all agreed on a certain limit for, how much this wealthy guy could have.
Right. Yeah.
Because it was for our own safety and it would have been scary. So, yeah. Yeah, that's the most extreme case.
My wife worked with a guy, and I think she worked with a lot of pretty wealthy people at one point, and he was talking about how he was having his entire basement, the entire footprint of his rather large home, turned into a hockey rink.
Oh no, that's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what my thought was, right? Like, what in the hell is this guy doing? Or, man, my parents suck because they'd have never done that for me. So those were the two thoughts in my mind. Well, lo and behold, he did that because he had a couple boys that played hockey and they really loved the sport.
That's
And
neat.
because
Wow, that's insane.
yeah, his parents evidently love him and mine didn't. So he gets a hockey rink.
That's insane.
I don't even get a Huffy, but he gets a hockey rink. Do you know both of those boys end up playing in the NHL?
They are? Oh,
Yeah.
he really did it for good reason. So that's actually very nice. So that paid off.
It actually paid off, I'm sure, multiples, because both of them played in the NHL. One of them did some time here in Columbus on the Blue Jackets, and the other, I think, was in Anaheim.
Nice.
But they actually got to play, in the big show. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that is the benefit of that because there's another kind of wealthy guy on the Balboa Peninsula on a little island called Lido Island. He wants to put a tunnel between his two houses, which is under the street, and he's on the tip of the island. So, the water's right there.
Right.
And so the city said, we'll charge you $40,000 a month to use that tunnel. And we'll let you do it if you'll pay us $40,000 a month. So the city got involved in these big dreams. And then even though he's one of those wealthy.com guys, he said no way to that. But
Yeah.
there's a price for some of it sometimes. And because the city knows he's got it. But it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to charge him to build a bat cave is what it sounds like.
Exactly. No, he built his house across the street from his house. And the house across the street from where he lives is a parking garage. It looks like a house, but it has elevators for 20 cars. And it's just a parking garage like you find in New York City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the facade looks like a pretty, Cape Cod house.
That's awesome. Yeah, in doing research for our talk with you, I was just trying to find out examples of things where, maybe somebody's asked for something. And there's a site called buildnaz.com. And this person said, one of the more memorable and strange requests was from, I'll call him the bachelor. He was doing a whole house remodel, and he wanted his and her toilets that were side by side.
Well, that's why would you put his and hers side by side? You should be in a different part of the house.
Exactly. You would think it'd be north and south, right? Not side by side, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
He's like,
No.
what kind of woman wouldn't want to use the toilet right next to? I mean, you can hold hands, and they showed pictures of these toilets, and it was hilarious.
To me, that's dumb, but that's an idea. At least you got the two toilets because everybody knows when you get married, the first thing your husband does is pick another part of the house to use the restroom.
Oh yeah, square footage saves that marriage. I'll tell you.
Exactly. It's true. It's a secret you might not know.
So, do you have an example of maybe your expectations of a job are going to be, oh, okay, great, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, and we're going to be done in 3 months, and it just turned into an absolute nightmare of a long project? And please don't say all of them.
That's happening right now as we speak.
Oh, really? What's going on?
I have a client who thought he was smart and hired a buddy to do contracting, and the buddy was no good and kind of a grifter and a scammer, and only had his contractor's license for a year. And this is a 6,000 square foot multi-million-dollar home in Newport Beach. So he fires him because he was scammed. And then I come in and I said, I want it done in 3 months. I go, well, this is a 6-month remodel, and I'll try to go faster. But I'm 5-star. I don't do cheap like that other guy, and I'll try. So I just put a date on it, because he wouldn't sign the contract without an earlier date. I said, well, I'll try. And so I put the date on there. I said, if everything goes smooth and their world keeps turning and nobody has any change orders, we'll make it. Probably, maybe, but I'll try because, I'm high end, because high end, you got to do it right in order. So anyway, we get started. First thing he does, there's 30 change orders in the last 3 months. So now we're at the 3-month mark. We just passed 3 months and we're going into 4, but I'll still be done in less than 6 months and probably in 4 months and 2 weeks, but really 4 months. But it's been constant harassment about why aren't we going faster? And I keep saying, Don't you remember the 30 change orders?
Right.
I mean, but it's just like I'm talking on deaf ears. So it's become a joke, but it's like kind of harassed because when the client causes the situation and doesn't take responsibility, I can't control that. We only can control what we do. So I managed to get the date moved out, so I have a buffer. But when I've been doing this 35 years, and I don't have clients like this normally, but came across him, and we're managing, but never again.
Yeah, that's the funny part too. I know people like this just working in business, and sometimes, you get a lot of these wealthy folks. It's not like this guy's living in his car and he has to get in that house.
He has three homes he could go to right now, and he keeps bragging about how much money he's worth. And I'm thinking, rent an Airbnb, take the pressure off your kids and your wife. And what are we doing here? I think he just likes the battle and
That's right.
It's like he's in charge.
It's the power, absolutely. It's the power. There's so many pissing matches that have taken place, and it's all over just to say that I'm the one in charge, and that's just too bad. I don't like to do business with that.
Thank you. So I did a funny thing I like to do because I'm 61 and I been around the block a few times. So I did a funny thing and put all this in an email and kind of did an all-star wrestling move and threw him to the mat in the email. And pointed out all the defects of this relationship that he's caused.
Oh, that's wonderful. He probably looked at that and said, "Oh my God, this lady's delusional."
Well, he looked at it. I've never received an email like that before. And I said, well, I've never received phone calls every day from a client before. And he goes, really, your clients don't complain? I said, dude, no. No.
Yeah, we hung your picture in the office because you're the only one so far.
And my secretary backed it up. I've worked with her for 5 years, and nobody complains because she's on it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
She does it right the first time. And so we're just laughing because it's in their head. And it's just he's created a power trip, and he needs that to – he's very young, so he needs that to survive, I guess. So it's on him.
Yeah, I imagine he's got a list that he goes to every day, and it's just a list of people's asses he wants to kick to make sure they know that he's there.
Yes, exactly, because he runs a company that's big, and he gets abused supposedly all day, according to the reports to me. And whatever. But yeah, he's causing his own in his brain, not me.
Yeah. Speaking of complaints, I did read a kind of a funny story on ContractorTalk.com. You probably didn't even know that existed. There's probably 3,000 just like it, but they asked people about complaints that they may have received for work they did. And this person said, a couple years ago, I did a bathroom remodel for a gay couple. Great customers. They paid on time. They were fantastic. After I completed the job, I got a call from the more feminine of the two, and he said he had a huge problem, needed me to come over as soon as possible. He thought it was odd that he wouldn't tell him the problem over the phone, so he goes, I scheduled to go see him the next day. I arrived trying to anticipate all the things that could be wrong. I knocked on the door. And the homeowner brought me up to the bathroom. He pointed at the toilet and said, there. And he looks at it. He couldn't see anything wrong. He goes, there. The water in the bowl's too high.
Oh, no.
And he looks at me. He goes, I don't understand. And the guy says, well, when my husband sits down, his penis touches the water. He said, try not. He wrote, I tried not to laugh, but could not help it. In near hysterics, I told him there was nothing that could be done outside of buying a specially designed tall bowl. And he finally just said he'd have to live through with it. I mean, have you ever had anybody come to you? And by the way, I would be the dork that was like, yeah, this door's not closing right. And someone would go, yeah, it's because it's pneumatic. It closes itself. That'd be my have you ever had anybody come to you with a complaint over something that was done right and you had to explain no, this is just the way it is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many that I can't think of one right now, but I mean, there's so many, and it usually comes from, I'm not going to say which gender it comes from, but yeah. And I'm looking at them seriously. But the funniest one is the guy. This is a guy, though, and his name, I love him, but he was a lawyer for Disney, relatively intelligent, and we remodeled his house for him, and he was all involved because he just retired, and he asked me, he called me back because he had a complaint, and he said he comes down because he had this glorious beach house, and he lived in Pasadena full time, and then he came for the beach house for the weekend. So he asked me, Julie, is there any way you can make the come out of the vents hot when I turn it on because I don't like the colder that comes out first when I turn on the heater. And I thought, Bob, come on. But I just looked at him like he is, but he wanted me to somehow figure out how to make the forced air come out. He didn't like that cold blast that was left in the vents all week.
Oh, that's
So
good.
he wanted me to figure out how to heat the air before he turned on the heater.
He doesn't like to have to warm up the shower. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably the best one.
So
we just looked at each other because my husband is my head framer, and we just looked at each other and we just like burst out laughing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one's tough. I don't know how I would keep a straight face with that one, but
No, I just like really, and I was like, I had to put it in an email because I couldn't even tell him on the phone because I didn't want to make fun of him.
yeah.
And but I just really documented it in the email. I thought, how could he actually ask this?
So I imagine you do a lot of construction, not only to refurbish existing homes, but also to build new, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes, I do more refurbishing because I kind of got stuck with that, and I love it because a lot of the contractors don't want to deal with the remodels, and I'm happy to do them because I love the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of guys, good contractors just want to build you a brand new home. It's freaking easy. Trust me.
Oh, I'm
Remodels
sure.
are tough. You got to deal with the homeowner who lives there. It's a nightmare. But I like it. I enjoy it. So.
And, we've already talked a little bit about the regulations and how pretty stringent they are. But the question I had is, because you're in construction, do you ever run into situations where there are accidents that happen while you're doing construction that kind of hold things up?
Well, we don't have a lot of accidents, knock on wood. And because we are A1 about safety and security, and my biggest thing is let's do it right, and we never pull fast ones or do anything because when it's sketchy, and we don't cut corners. So we don't have any accidents, but I can tell you I know of accidents that hold things up, and people everything from guys getting injured or falling off the roof to falling in a hole, and just dumb stuff. But and then there's I know a contractor in I don't know what he was thinking, but on the peninsula, but he was drilling for caissons at this house and cracked the seawall. Now you got the Coastal Commission up your ass so far, you're never going to get out of this.
Yeah.
So that house went on hold forever. So it's just, and that happened to a large building down in the peninsula too. And it's just sad because they cut corners, and all my subs that were involved, because one of my subs works on a lot of commercial jobs too and residential. And he told me what really happened, and the contractor cut corners. So he is now in debt for life because this is, one of them was a house and the other one was a commercial place with apartments and condos.
Yeah.
So it was really sad because it's always the fault of somebody cutting corners or trying to save some money. So I don't do that. I spend more money to be safe.
Yeah, that's the importance. And, if you give anybody any advice, especially about something like a home, it's going to be a large investment. That is the one place you do not want to save a dollar. You want to make sure it's done right.
You want to spend more.
Yeah.
Every time you say you want to save money, I don't let my clients micromanage. I usually just cut them off and tell them to shut the hell up. Because when they ask, because if they get micromanaging on that, I just like, oh my God.
Yeah, you got the wrong person. Exactly.
You got the wrong person. And because if the more you try to save money, the more it's going to cost you in the end. It's guaranteed. Right. Guaranteed. Cut corners, you're going to pay for it later, and you're going to pay a lot more.
And period. I always find it interesting that, and I don't know if you see this, clearly you deal with some wealthy clients, but when I've dealt with some wealthy clients, there's a couple things I can guarantee. They love to talk about their business or their wealth, and I think that's great because people build their businesses, and I think that's wonderful. But then I've had some that do that, and then they immediately want to haggle over a $50 expense. And maybe that's how they got that wealthy. But I always think that's really funny that they like to talk about money, and then they like to talk about you not charging them.
Well, what kills me is when they start doing that, then they start to show their ignorance of my business. So then I start to say, well, you're going to get involved and think you know what you're talking about. Are you going to cut when your appendix bursts? You're going to do your appendix surgery. You need brain surgery. You're going to do that too.
Right.
Are you going to perform your own, you don't understand the consequences. That one little item is a ripple effect if you stuck with that. So to explain that to a control freak and a micromanager is hard, because then you got to insult their intelligence. You don't know my business, dude. Stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
So you know how many times I want to say it like that, but you got to explain it to them. And then sometimes they don't give up, and you're like, God, you don't get it. And because all that micromanaging is a ripple effect.
I've got a strategy for you. Chris and I are going to open up our own business from Ohio to work in California. So this is part of the genius. Anybody who acts that way, just give them our name and let them talk to us for 5 minutes about what they're going to do. Immediately, they'll go running back to you.
I think I like it. Let's do it, because I need that. Maybe it's because I'm a chick. You know,
Maybe,
I'm Bob
who knows?
the Builder with. I'm Bob the Builder with boobs, and they like to fuck with me, but I just hate getting challenged.
Yeah, be like, I got the perfect guys for you, and the good news is they're cheap. And then they'd find out really quick, you get what you pay for.
Right.
Let's do this.
I'd be like, stucco, can you tell me what that is again?
We show up and say, hey, can I borrow a hammer? They'll know.
No, give it to him. Dangerous weapon.
So what would you say is, I mean, I know we've talked a lot of regulations and stuff, and believe me, in this podcast, we try to keep things relatively light, but I'm just curious, like, what's a day in the life of your business? Because there's so many things that you're doing. I'm just kind of curious what a normal day looks like.
Well, I get up at 4 and I slam coffee, and then I try to do a quickie meditation and clear and cleanse, which basically is I sort out what I'm up against for the day and how I'm not going to put up with anybody's shit. That's what clearing and cleansing is for me. And what roadblocks am I going to have to go around or over? And I put up my steel walls. No, you're not getting at me today. And then I hit the road at 5:30, and then the phone starts going at 6 with the guys that are actually participating on the mental level, because a lot of the workers are just workers. They show up, they swing a hammer, but the guys that I talk to, that we make decisions with, every morning, that happens. Every day we strategize like a huddle. It's a huddle. It's called a tailgate. That happens for 15 to 30 minutes every morning. And then I'm the one that projects the job the whole year, 3 months in advance, 2 months in advance, and then we strategize every day like a freaking football huddle. Every day is a play. So that starts, and then we deal with, hopefully, no client screwing around with us and asking, trying to interject. So usually I get that managed up front, but, then like Friday, I had to call for concrete, and then I had to change the concrete truck loads 2 or 3 times because this job was going up a hill, so we had to change the loads because they can only do a half a truck, and then the guys in the field want 6 yards instead of 4 yards, and then they want 7 yards. So I changed it like 3 times just to get the truck deliveries right. And the concrete guy's my buddy, so it's easy. We just text.
Yeah.
And then so we got that accomplished. And then I go to the job and look at stuff that needs to be done, and then continue more scheduling, because every day, every move I make and every decision I make and what happens the next day. And then how much work the guys get done, flows into the next day. So it's really a football huddle and a constant scheduling. And it's like conducting an orchestra every day, and then that orchestra keeps playing throughout the length of the job. But it's really a constant management and you're involved minute by minute. So, yeah. But by 10 o'clock, it's pretty calm. And then I have I have my first lunch at 9:30, and then I eat again at 12, and then and then the afternoon is design stuff usually, and then I sit down at my desk for the 2 hours of recap that needs to be done every single day.
Yeah.
Because I like to keep notes and organize. And so by 4 o'clock, which is 12 hours later, I attempt to shut off my phone and come my computer. But if I'm bidding jobs,
yeah,
which I just finished bidding 4 large jobs, I sit there from 4 to 6 o'clock at night and finish my bidding. So I've just got done bidding 4 jobs, and yay. So now I don't have to do that little nighttime shift, which I get from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. because at 4, I'm already 12 hours into my day.
Right.
So every day is a 16-hour day. And I eat dinner at 5 o'clock, no later than 6, and I'm in bed by 8.
Oh, wow.
And that's my day.
Now,
yeah, I know I go to bed early, because I like to get up early at 4.
Sure. And it sounds like you've got a lot of plates spinning all the time. How many projects do you normally have at any one time, or does it just vary?
Well, it's always the same. It's weird. So it's I have 7 on the drafting table and 7 in construction, but right now we have like 12 things going on, but 4 of them are just little maintenance things where we'll go caulk something, every 6 months, or we'll go reseal some stone every 6 months, but they're still on the board because we're scheduling stuff. But it's weird. It's 7 and 7 usually. So, and then the jobs that I do, I try not to do remodels that are under $1 million because my company is so big, but I still do a couple smaller ones here and there at $500,000, but I definitely don't go under $500,000 because it takes just as much time to boil 1 pound of pasta as it does to boil 2
Right.
pounds of pasta. So my cost, I can't touch it if it's under $500,000 because my overhead.
Sure.
So that makes it, then I have to give away work, give away money. It costs me money to do the job.
That brings me to my next point, because you're dealing with sometimes some very wealthy clients, and some of them just have the cash. But this is one of those weird times right now where fortunes change. If the stock market's going great, everyone has access to a lot of funds. If things dip and die, some people get cash poor very quick. Have you ever had a scenario where you had to pull the plug or stop?
Yes. Oh my God. I had a client 2 years ago now. It's been 2 years and I'm still waiting for the job to start. We got through the plans. It took us almost a year to get through the plans because, of course, they added to the scope. We started with the $650 budget and they got it up to 1.8. And it's a young couple and they appear to have money because this is their 3rd home in Newport. And this one's on the water. It's right next door to the one with the 238 caissons. It's 1 house away, which is funny. And I know, and the client that's in between them is also my client. So I kind of own that block. It's funny.
Yeah.
Both clients. But anyway, so we get to the permit. I pulled the permit in October of 2020, and he calls me and says, "Oh my God, the stock market just crashed. I lost $1 million, and I can't do this project right now." So I said, "Okay, just call us back." But he hasn't recovered yet. He's never going to recover that. The stock market hasn't recovered that amount of money.
Right.
So I'm thinking, geez, dude, why'd you put your money in the stock market? You should have just put it in a savings account. Why'd you let it ride? And then the stock market took that big dump, at the end of COVID, and it was scary for everyone. But I'm like thinking, how dumb are you to put a promised money to someone?
Yeah, you had usage of that money. You knew what you were going to do with it.
Right.
If you had it, you might as well set it aside.
You should have moved it. You
Yeah.
should have moved it aside. So I kind of felt like you're Mr. Silicon Valley Smarty Pants, but now you can't do your project, Smarty Pants.
But that's the kind of
So,
stuff
I'm
that
sorry.
always makes me worry about people in business sometimes because
Yeah, then I realized that maybe they don't have the money because I know they started with a $650 budget and
Yeah.
then it got to 1.8. So I'm like thinking, you know what? You didn't have it to start with.
right, exactly.
Come on, give me a break.
Unintended consequences if you don't set money aside or do things.
Oh yeah,
Just crazy.
Stock market's like anything could happen, and the hardest hit of the stock market, as we all know, was about a year ago or a year and a half. I can't remember, but everybody knows when it was. It was
Right.
brutal.
Yeah. I mean, I actually worked at a company in 2008, and as luck would have it, I was in the collections business, but it was in 2008 and the market just died. And it's funny.
Oh yeah.
You definitely don't want to start pulling money out of the market after it dies, in my personal opinion. I'm always one of these long investor kind of people. So I only put money in investments that I don't need for 5-10 years. But
that's what my mom does, and that's why she survives. It's really, it's a long game.
Absolutely. It's a long game. And when people have short-term money in there, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Oh yeah, no, it's scary. It's dumb, and I could have put it in bonds or something else to make it a couple percentage points more. I mean, geez, there's a lot of options.
Yeah,
So,
at least preserve your capital. That's interesting. Well, hey, thank you very much, Julie, for talking to us. This is the point of the podcast where I ask Chris, what did we learn today?
Yep, I learned that if I'm willing to spend about $40,000 to the city, I could build a tunnel between my house and your house.
That's true. Yeah,
That's $40,000 a month. $40,000 a month.
$40,000 a month. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what I learned is if I am ever going to build something, I'm hiring Julie because she won't let me do the stupid shit to my house that I would guarantee I'd want done. So that's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, hey, thank you very much, Julie. This is Scott McLaughlin.
I'm Chris Kiernan.
Saying we'll see you at work.
Thank you for listening to the Not in the Job Description podcast. If you have a story you'd like to share, or if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please let us know by sending us an email with a brief description of your story to stories at notinthejob.com.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more crazy stories, make sure you follow us wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Rumble, Instagram, and YouTube.